Hello, I'm Amrita Chopra, and this is what's making news now. More than 11.5 million documents from the Panama-based Mossack Fonseca law firm were leaked over the weekend. The papers contain the financial secrets of billionaires, athletes, and many people and companies involved with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Panama is considered an offshore tax haven, with companies like the firm creating corporate structures that are meant to hide ownership of assets. Anas Sadiq takes an in-depth look at the story.
Thanks for joining me. The sheer scale of the leaked documents, which are being dubbed the Panama Papers, required hundreds of journalists from around the world to investigate. The data was first leaked to German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung in late 2014 over encrypted chat. Reporters then reached out to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, who began the arduous work of sifting through the largest data leak in history. Let's put that in context. While there have been some major leaks over the past decade, few stand out more than the WikiLeaks documents from 2010. These leaks held 1.7 gigabytes of data. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but the Panama Papers constitute a whopping 2.6 terabytes of data. That is over 1,500 times WikiLeaks. So why does this matter? The information contained within the leaks points to a global industry of tax evasion. Major global figures have been named in the documents, and financial ties to others have come to light. Let's take a look at some of them. Russian President Vladimir Putin is alleged to have financial ties to billions of dollars in offshore funds through close friends. The Kremlin responded by alleging that the journalists who had worked on the data had ties to the CIA and special services, and that the journalistic community was guilty of Putin phobia. The late Ian Cameron, father of the Prime Minister of the UK, David Cameron, was instrumental in the creation of an offshore holding company, which promoted itself as being not liable to taxation. PM Cameron did not respond to comment. A member of British Parliament, a former member of the House of Lords, and a baroness were also found to have links to offshore holdings. Close relatives of 7 current or former Chinese leaders, including the current Chinese president, Xi Jinping, were found to have links to offshore firms. 2 other members of China's Politburo Standing Committee, Zhang Gaoli and Liu Yanshan, were also linked. The Chinese government has refused comment. The Prime Minister of Iceland, Sigmundur Davidur Gunnlaugsson, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Bjarni Benediktsson, as well as Internal Minister Olaf Nordal, were also linked to offshore holdings. Prime Minister Gunnlaugsson walked out of an interview with Swedish network SVT, saying something is being made suspicious that isn't suspicious. The Icelandic ministers named said that they were in compliance of Icelandic law. Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz bin Abdurrahman Al Saud was linked to an offshore company used to pay mortgages on London homes and to hold a luxury yacht. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Naif bin Abdulaziz Al Saud was also mentioned in the papers as being linked to several offshore holdings. President of the United Arab Emirates and Emir of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, was linked to over 30 offshore companies worth billions. These are only a few key figures of the other over 200 named in the papers. While detailed walkthroughs of the data are available on the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists website, ICIJ.com, the raw data is yet to be released. It is important to note there is a conspicuous absence of any names from either Canada or the US in these documents. That's it for this special report. I'm Anas Sadiq. Back to you, Amrita.
Thanks, Anas. The government of Greece is sending migrants back to Turkey today. Greece's action is based on a new deal with the European Union. Under the agreement, Turkey will take back all immigrants and refugees who entered Greece illegally, including Syrians. In return, the European Union will take in thousands of Syrian refugees directly from Turkey. The deal was put into place to strengthen ties between European Union and Turkey. Security officials say 25 people have been killed today in suicide attacks across Iraq. The attacks targeted members of Shiite military forces. The Islamic State, which controls territories in parts of northern and western Iraq, has claimed responsibility for the attacks. More than 60 people were wounded. An Amtrak train carrying 330 passengers derailed south of Philadelphia when it hit a backhoe on Sunday. 2 people were killed and 35 are injured. Passengers described the accident as a jolt followed by a fireball. Investigators are trying to find out why the equipment was on an active track. Republican candidate Donald Trump is hoping tomorrow's primary in Wisconsin will make his bad week better. Trump is coming into Wisconsin as an underdog. He trails his opponent, Ted Cruz, by 10% in sub-Wisconsin polls. On the Democratic side, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders is trying to protect his lead over frontrunner Hillary Clinton in opinion polls. Speaking of Trump, a steelworker hung a Mexican flag atop a Trump Tower under construction in Vancouver. Diego Solrena hung the flag from the building's top floor to show Trump how vital Mexican workers are to his business. Trump has referred to Mexican immigrants as criminals and has seriously floated the idea of building a wall across the U.S.-Mexico border. Now that's enough about Trump. Let's go to sports with Sadie Perfetto.
Thanks, Amrita. Well, the wait for baseball is finally over. The Toronto Blue Jays opened their season yesterday with a 5-3 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. Marcus Stroman picked up his first win, going 8+ innings, allowing 3 runs and 6 hits. Troy Tulowitzki hit the first home run of the MLB season, a 2-run shot. Rays third baseman Evan Longoria had 2 hits and drove in Tampa's first run of the game with a third-inning single. Osuna got the last 3 outs of the game and picked up the save. 24-year-old Stroman became the 3rd youngest opening day starting pitcher in Blue Jays history. R.A. Dickey hits the mound tonight as the Jays take on the Rays at 7 p.m. In a rematch of the 2015 World Series, the Kansas City Royals topped the New York Mets 4-3. Royals pitcher Edison Volquez faced off against New York's Matt Harvey. The Mets battled back against a 4-0 deficit, scoring 3 runs in the 8th inning. New York put the tying run on base in the 9th, but Yoenis Cespedes struck out swinging for the final out, giving the defending champs their first win of the season. March Madness wraps up tonight as the Villanova Wildcats take on the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Number 1 seed UNC looks to capture their 6th national title, and 2 seed Villanova is in search of their 2nd. UNC defeated Syracuse 83-66, and Villanova crushed Oklahoma 95-51 in the semifinals. Tip-off is 9 p.m. Eastern tonight and will be played at NGR Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Toronto Raptors have clinched 2nd place in the Eastern Conference. Despite being defeated by the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday night, the Raptors locked up 2nd place after the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Charlotte Hornets on Sunday. The Raptors will take on Charlotte Tuesday night at the Air Canada Centre. NBA legends Yao Ming, Shaquille O'Neal, and Allen Iverson will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. The league announced the 3, along with Tom Izzo, Jerry Reinsdorf, and Cheryl Swoops, will be inducted as part of the 2016 class. From the hardwood to the ice, the Leafs were defeated 3-2 on Saturday night, keeping the Red Wings' playoff hopes alive. The wind pushed Detroit past the Boston Bruins for 3rd place in the Atlantic Division. Detroit is battling with the 3 teams for the final spot. The Wings have made the playoffs for the past 24 straight seasons. Toronto, meanwhile, sits steady in last place in the East. The Leafs will play host to the Florida Panthers tonight at the Air Canada Centre. Not in that lineup will be Nazem Kadri, as he was suspended 4 games after his cross-check on Detroit's Luke Glendening. The two were battling in the corner before Kadri followed Glendening in front of the net and cross-checked him in the shoulder-neck area. Glendening was not injured on the play, and Kadri received a minor penalty. The Toronto forward was most recently fined $5,000 for his 2nd and 3rd diving offenses. Rich Clune has been called up to replace Kadri in the lineup. Steven Stamkos will be out for the remainder of the season, which could include playoffs. The Tampa Bay forward was diagnosed with a blood clot in his right arm, which will put him out 1 to 3 months. The announcement was made by Lightning GM Steve Yzerman following their game Saturday night. He is expected to make a full recovery. The Montreal Canadiens have recalled forward John Scott. Yes, you heard that right, John Scott. Scott was traded from Arizona to Montreal on January 15th after controversy surrounding the NHL All-Star Game. He was later sent down to St. John's of the AHL and told he would not be recalled this season. The All-Star MVP is expected to finish the season with the big club. Brendan Gallagher is a big fan of Marcus Stroman, but apparently the feeling is not mutual. The Montreal Canadiens forward had a Stroman jersey signed by the Blue Jays pitcher, where he was quick to remind Gallagher that his loyalties remain in the six. Stroman signed the jersey to Gally, "Sorry, but I'm a Leafs fan." It seems as though the rivalry of Montreal and Toronto is more than just on the ice. Canada and the United States will meet in the finals of the Women's World Hockey Championship for the 17th time in as many tournaments. Canada defeated Finland 5-3 in the semifinals Sunday night, and the Americans crushed Russia 9-0. The U.S. is chasing its third straight gold in the tournament. The finals will be played tonight in Kamloops, BC for a 10:30 p.m. start. In other news, the West Indies stands atop the cricket world after its double win in the World 2020. The men's team beat England by 4 wickets in the finals, and the women defeated 3-time defending champion Australia by 8 wickets. The West Indies became the first country to win both the men's and women's titles in the same championship. That's all for sports. I'm Sadie Perfetto. Over to Alana Pranchik with entertainment.
Thanks, Sadie. Now let's take a look at your entertainment headlines. It was Canada's time to shine last night at the 45th Annual Juno Awards in Calgary. Our very own Humber College faculty and alumni were recognized for their talents, collectively winning 7 Juno Awards, and we want to say congratulations to them all. Some of the winners included Humber alumni Emily Claire Barlow, who took away Vocal Jazz Album of the Year for Clear Day, and Humber music faculty member Roby Bodis, who won Solo Jazz Album of the Year for Movin' Forward. The weekend might be looking for a bigger trophy shelf. The Toronto-born artist walked away with 5 awards, including Album of the Year for Beauty Behind the Madness and Single of the Year for Can't Feel My Face. This brings the weekend's Juno Award count to 9 in total. Brampton's own Alessia Cara opened the show with her hit songs Here and Wild Things. The pop newcomer then went on to win the award for Breakthrough Artist of the Year. The Juno love continued into the night for former Guess Who frontman Burton Cummings, who was inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame for his solo career. One Canadian who didn't get as much love as the rest was Justin Bieber. The singer won the Fan Choice Award, which was voted by viewers, and thanked them through a 7-second video, which was then followed by boos throughout the crowd. I think it's safe to say some viewers weren't too pleased. While Bieber was getting booed up here in Canada, below the border, he was accepting praise at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. The singer won 3 trophies, including Best Male Artist, but the big winner of the night was Taylor Swift, who won 4 awards, including Album of the Year for 1989 and Female Artist of the Year. The singer wasn't alone in her celebrations. Her crew had a winning night too. Swift's bestie Selena Gomez won the biggest Triple Threat Award, and her boyfriend Calvin Harris won Dance Artist of the Year. Other winners included Adele, Chris Brown, and Drake. The award shows continued with the Academy of Country Music Awards happening last night in Las Vegas. The man of the night was without a doubt Chris Stapleton. The singer-songwriter won 4 awards related to his debut album as a solo artist, Traveler, including Album of the Year and Song of the Year for Nobody to Blame. Miranda Lambert won her 7th consecutive Female Vocalist of the Year trophy, and Jason Aldean finally took away the top award, winning Entertainer of the Year after being passed up for 6 other awards. Performances by Tim McGraw, Cam, and Eric Church left good impressions, but it was Dolly Parton and Katy Perry who stole the show. The duo performed a medley of hits, including Coat, Jolene, and 9 to 5. Other winners of the night included Florida Georgia Line, Kelsey Ballerini, and Old Dominion. Actress Lucy Decotere has left the TV show Trailer Park Boys after news of her co-star Mike Smith has been charged in the U.S. Decotere announced her resignation on Twitter page hours after a statement was released, saying Smith, who plays the character Bubbles, is accused of domestic battery. Smith and his friend Georgia Ling, who is the alleged victim, both denied the charge in the statement. Decotere was a plaintiff in the recent sexual assault case against CBC radio host Jean Gomeshi, where he was found not guilty. Decotere backed up her decision to quit the show on Twitter by saying, "If I find out that somebody is abusive, I cut them out of my life." Now let's take a look at the box office for the past weekend. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice is losing steam as it ends its 2nd week in the theaters. The superhero movie topped the box office with over $52 million, but that showed a steep 68% fall from its $166 million debut last weekend. Coming in second and managing to keep up its run in its 5th week was Disney's Zootopia, and rounding out the top 3 for the weekend was My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. That's it for your entertainment news. Now let's head back to Amrita Chopra in the studio.
Thanks, Lana. Black Lives Matter protests continue today outside of Toronto Police Headquarters, where protesters have been camping out for the last 2 weeks. The protests started after Ontario's Special Investigations Unit cleared a Toronto police officer in the shooting death of Andrew Loku. Today, some protesters walked to Queen's Park. Premier Kathleen Wynne came outside to speak with protesters who have a set of demands for the Premier and Toronto Mayor John Tory. These demands include charges laid against the officer who shot Loku and a provincial review of the Special Investigations Unit. Meanwhile, John Tory is in Silicon Valley at a technology conference. Later this week, Tory is set to visit China, then Japan, with 2 members of his office staff, 4 city councillors, and 3 city staff. The mayor says the purpose of the trip is to attract investors and jobs for Toronto. The mayor's office says the trip cost more than $81,000. Rob Ford's family says it will pay back the city for the late former mayor's funeral. Toronto Star reports say the funeral cost the city more than $18,000. In a statement, the family said it would cover the full cost of the service, which included a 2-day public visitation at City Hall before a procession to St. James Cathedral last Wednesday. 5 people are in hospital after a TTC bus crashed into a barrier on Highway 427 this morning. All suffered minor injuries. The bus driver was one of the people hurt. The crash happened at 3:30 this morning in the middle of a snow blitz that hit Toronto and the GTA overnight. To see what the rest of the week has in store, let's go to Shay Koshi with the weather.
Thanks a lot, Amrita. We've had a very warm winter, and that's because of the El Nino weather pattern. Now, some might ask, what is the El Nino weather pattern? And it's a climate cycle, essentially, which influences weather patterns across the globe. What does that mean for us? It means that we get milder winters than average for most Canadians. We've had a very typical El Nino weather pattern where the northern jet stream that holds the Arctic air stays in the north for most of December and January. But as the second half of winter rolls around, you're looking at that pattern changing. That jet stream that stayed in the north suddenly drops to the south, which brings in that Arctic air for a couple of weeks. With the southern jet stream, you're looking at lots of rain and snowstorms. Looking over the past weekend, the storm system we experienced is slowly pushing towards the east, but we will still be dealing with light amount of snow and flurries. Let's have a look at what we have in store for the coming week. Today we'll have periods of snow with northeast winds hitting about 30 kilometers per hour with a high of 1 and a low of -10. On Tuesday, we'll mainly be sunny with a high of 1 degree and a low of -5. On Wednesday, we have periods of snow with high of 5 degrees and a low of 0. On Thursday, we have a 60% chance of rain or flurries with a high of 4 degrees and a low of -3. On Friday, we have 40% chance of flurries with a high of 2 and a low of -6. Well, I'm Shay Koshi, and that's all from Weather Network. Back to Amrita in the studio.
Thanks, Shay. Maybe once the weather gets warmer, you can consider getting yourself a new Tesla 3. The new model of the electric car was unveiled late last week, and over 200,000 order deposits have been booked so far. The Tesla 3 starts at $35,000, which is less than half the cost of the previous models. Those are all of today's top stories. I'm Amrita Chopra. From all of us here at SkedLIVE, thanks for watching.